Stocks dip after a strong open. Big block trades in Adani Group stocks stands out, even as realty stocks stand out as stark gainers today. Mid-caps are relative underperformers.
The Supreme Court forms a marquee panel to review allegations against the Adani Group, and SEBI rules in the light of the sharp slide in Adani stocks. Experts give the move a big thumbs up.
Joint ventures of RVNL and BHEL Titagar wagons are expected to split a mega 58,000 crore rupees order for 200 train sets under the Vande Bharat program, and the stocks jump on the back of this news.
Two-wheeler makers Hero MotoCorp and Eicher Motors see a healthy pickup in sales in February and expect improved consumer sentiment to sustain the momentum.
In a far-reaching verdict, the Supreme Court orders that election commissioners, including the Chief Election Commissioner, will be appointed by a committee consisting of the Prime Minister, the Leader of Opposition and the Chief Justice. Hello and welcome. You've tuned into Business Lunch. I'm Nisha Podar, and as always with me is my co-anchor Pavitra Parekh. Well, Pavitra, good afternoon. So again, a weakish sentiment. Yesterday we managed to actually snap the losing streak. Today also opened with gusto, but then the weakness really prevails. But there are a lot of really, stock-specific as well as news-based items that are really impacting the markets. Of course, Adani Group stocks, they continue to be calling in the news and also impacting the overall markets, with some of them really being part of Nifty 50. But at the moment, Nifty 50 not looking well. 0.5% down in trade with almost 90 points cut. When we talk about sensex, it's 362 points cut on sensex, and Bank Nifty is the one which is showing slight outperformance to the key indices, but still it is deep in the red, 0.4% down. Mid caps, let's take a look at that universe. That is being much more resilient, but there is a negative bias on that as well. So flat to negative is where the mid caps are. Take a look at Adani Enterprises. Well, it's gaining in trade, and also Coal India, Hero MotoCorp, BPCL as well as Adani Ports, some of the ones which are on the gaining side are showing greater momentum at lunch hour, and advanced decline ratio because of the broader participation is probably slightly more on the side of the advances right now.
Okay, so right now, I mean, like you said, it is a 90-point cut, but what's encouraging today is that the broader market is holding up a lot better, and this is something that we've seen ever since the word go. The mid-cap index, the small-cap index is what is holding up quite well. In terms of stocks, Nisha has mentioned the Adani Group, but take a look at the, the real estate companies which are seeing a good bounce come through today, and also some of the PSU banks. So the real estate trust, some of them will be up on your screen, the likes of Macrotech Developers, Suntech Realty, these ones holding up very well. You also have some from the PSU Bank Index which are doing well. In fact, for the week, the PSU Bank Index, this is a one-week move, is up more than 4%. So, definitely regaining some of lost ground over there. On the downside, it's largely about the IT names today. So some of the larger ones will come up for you. But that's what's going on with the market action. Let's kickstart the show by talking about the top story on Business Lunch today. And this, of course, comes through from the Apex Court. The Supreme Court has has actually formed a marquee panel now to review allegations against the Adani Group as well as SEBI rules in the light of the sharp slide seen in Adani Group stocks. Ashmit joins us now with all of the details from the Supreme Court. Ashmit?
Well, an important judgment this coming in from the top court, the Supreme Court giving much needed clarity on the regulatory path that needs to be followed from this point on. And towards that end, there are two key takeaways from these proceedings. The number one takeaway here is that the Supreme Court, just as it had said, will not accept recommendations from either the petitioner or the government, will go ahead, will make his own expert committee to study this matter. And towards that end, has formed a 5-member committee that will be headed by a former retired Supreme Court Judge, Justice Sapre. This committee is a high-powered committee. It has luminaries there as a part of its composition. We have the likes of K.V. Kamath, Nandan Nilekani, Somshekhar Sundaresan, O.P. Bhatt, Justice Devadar, that will be a part of this committee. Now, the mandate is twofold. Number one, to study some of these questions and issues that have arisen with respect to Adani Group of companies. That's part one. The other is to study the current framework, the existing framework with respect to investor protection and recommendations, if any, required to strengthen the investor protection framework. Investor protection because Supreme Court a number of times has expressed concerns on whether or not the existing framework is sufficient to account for the volatility that was seen in Adani stocks and the subsequent investor wealth erosion. But that's only the first takeaway. The second takeaway is equally relevant. This is a very explicit direction that is coming from the Apex Court to the market regulator SEBI, where the Supreme Court has identified 4 key issues. Number one, market manipulation, Securities Act violation, minimum public shareholding norms, and related party transactions. SEBI has been served with this 4-point mandate to verify whether or not there have been any violations, whether or not there is any merit in the concerns they raised in this Hindenburg report, and whether or not there is scope for any regulatory action. That is a report that SEBI will have to submit within 2 months' time. That report will have to be submitted towards the expert panel, and then subsequently the expert panel will make its recommendation. So a time-bound exercise is what the Apex Court is expecting the onus now on SEBI as well as this expert panel to go ahead and to take these proceedings forward. Back to you.
All right, that's a very big development, Ashmit, in the saga of Adani Group of companies and the crisis thereon. And 2 months is the time for SEBI report findings. But Gautam Adani tweets that the Adani Group welcomes the order of the Honorable Supreme Court. It will bring finality in a time-bound manner and truth will prevail, is what Gautam Adani says. But Ashmit, you know, there is a lot of action in the courtroom today and some important rulings there. So for more from the Apex Court, well, the Supreme Court today also quashes the present system of election commission appointments, and a 5-judge bench directs for an independent committee comprising of the Prime Minister, Leader of the Opposition, and also the CJI to advise on the appointment of the election commissioners. Ashmit, what's the implication of this and how is this new process going to go ahead?
Well, a hugely significant landmark judgment being delivered by the Apex Court, and not just by the Supreme Court, but a 5-judge bench of the Apex Court. This 5-judge bench was headed by Justice K.M. Joseph. What is the takeaway? The takeaway here is that the current system of appointing election commissioners has been scrapped, has been done away with. What the Supreme Court has done, what this 5-judge bench has done, has given an alternative. The alternative now is that there will be an independent panel that will now make appointments of election commissioners, and that this independent panel will be comprised of, number one, the Prime Minister, number two, the Leader of Opposition, and number three, the Chief Justice of India. This is what the Supreme Court says will be the framework going forward. Not just that, the Supreme Court says that unless this is an issue which is squarely within the remit of the Parliament, and unless and until the Parliament changes this or comes out with a fresh law on appointments of election commissioners, this is the framework that will continue to be in place. Keep in mind that the Supreme Court had been hearing an entire batch of applications that had questioned appointment of election commissioners, the manner in which they were being done, and had in fact also alleged in some cases biases that had been shown by the Election Commission. To this end, the Apex Court has observed several times as a part of its order that as a part of an electoral democracy which we have in India, it is important that the Election Commission, number one, enjoys independence, and number two, it has some form of distancing, third-party distancing between itself and the government and other political stakeholders. So with that, the Supreme Court squarely providing for a panel, an expert panel comprising the PM, the LOP, as well as the Chief Justice of India.
All right, very important. Ashmit, thanks a lot for bringing us all of the details on this one. But there's more that we're tracking as well. And this is another important order. This one has come through from market regulator SEBI, which has now clamped down on the use of social media to pump and dump. So Yash is here with all of the details on this one. Yash?
Well, Pavitra, this is the first of its kind, an order coming from market regulator SEBI, literally as a clampdown on the misuse of social media in the capital markets. SEBI has passed 2 important orders. These are against 2 companies called Sadhana Broadcast and Sharpline Broadcast. As far as the modus operandi is concerned, when it comes to misuse of social media, essentially there were certain individuals related to the company, KMPs, who entered or bought the shares of these 2 companies at an early stage at a lower price, post which false and misleading videos were uploaded on YouTube recommending buying these shares to the general public. Who was involved in this entire modus operandi? Creators of YouTube channel, net sellers, profit makers, volume creators, all of them were involved, and SEBI established a link amongst all these stakeholders. Essentially what happened is, after these people enter the shares of the company, volumes were created through propagating false and misleading information through YouTube channels. These YouTube channels had lakhs of subscribers, videos had crores of views. What naturally that led to was a spurt in the price as well as the volumes of these companies, and the people who had entered these companies at an early stage sort of offloaded their shares to the retail investors in the market once the purpose was sort of achieved. As far as Sadhana Broadcast is concerned, SEBI has named 31 people in this price manipulation case. Interestingly, actor Arshad Varsi and his wife are also named as far as Sadhana Broadcast case is concerned. Sharpline Broadcast, SEBI's named 24 people on notices in this case. All these people which have been named in the orders of these two companies have been barred from capital markets. Also, illegal gains made by these notices have been asked to pay back as penalty to market regulators.
All right, thanks, Yash. Very important bit of details coming in, especially for the retail investors in the market. With that, quick break on Business Lunch. But up next, we get you the latest updates from the G20 Foreign Ministers Meet. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Business Lunch, and as promised, let's get you the latest on the G20 Foreign Ministers Meet that is underway. On the sidelines of the event, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar held bilateral talks with Anthony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, as well as the Chinese Foreign Minister. So Parikshit is joining us now to give us the updates on the agenda. Parikshit?
Well, as expected, this has been a heated meeting between the G7 and Russia and China on one side here at the G20 Foreign Ministers Meet at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. The French Foreign Minister, we believe, has told G20 ministers that all G20 delegates need to stand firm, as they did in Bali, and send out a strong message that they will deliver. They will deliver for the most vulnerable and not leave them to the mercy of Russia's war. So strong words coming in from the G7. Anthony Blinken has already refused to have any kind of bilateral with the Chinese or the Russian foreign minister. The Russian and Chinese foreign ministers met on the sidelines of the G20 a little while back. The Prime Minister, in his speech earlier today, said that this is a time of great global divide, and he is hoping for some amount of consensus. And that is what the External Affairs Minister also said, that the world is looking to the G20 for some sort of direction, some sort of guidance on how to deal with economic challenges, and therefore some consensus on the joint statement is very important. But it's highly unlikely that the G20 will come to a joint communique at the end of this, because G20 works with consensus. And the last meeting in Bengaluru, we had seen how Russia and China just did not want paragraphs on Ukraine war to be included in the joint statement. So let's see what they agree on. But broadly, the agenda includes food and energy security, sustainable development goals, green finance, and counter-terrorism as well. Let's wait and see whether there will be a joint communique. But India says it is confident that there will be strong deliverables, strong outcomes from this meeting.
We all have our positions and our perspectives on how this tension should be resolved. However, at the leading economies of the world, we also have a responsibility toward those who are not in this room. The world looks upon the G20 to ease the challenges of growth, corruption, terrorism, and food and energy security. In all these areas, the G20 has capacity to build consensus and deliver concrete results.
All right, so that was Prime Minister Modi then, and we'll slip into a short breather on the show for now. But when we return, we will get you all the latest from the key assembly elections in 3 northeastern states. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch, and take a look at the markets. A slight bit of sell-off seen across the board. And Bharti Airtel is one counter from Nifty 50 counters, which has seen it really dropping to the low point of the trading session. Advance decline ratio also was in favor of the advances by a small margin, has actually gone on a crisscross mode and tapering at that point. So keep an eye out on the market. This time is for trend reversal. Moving on to some national development then, and it's an important election update. Well, counting is underway in 3 key states assembly elections. In Tripura, well, the ruling BJP is in the lead against its nearest rival, the Left Congress Alliance, and they are currently leading in 33 seats, which is 2 more than the majority mark. Now, on the other hand, the National People's Party is in the lead in Meghalaya with 27 seats, which is 4 short of majority. And trend suggests that the state is really heading towards a hung assembly since no party has a clear majority yet. Meanwhile, in Nagaland, well, the BJP and its partners, Nationalist Democratic Progressive Party, are leading in 36 seats in the 60-member assembly.
All right, that is the latest on the counting. We will keep bringing you updates. But with that, we're completely out of time on Business Lunch. Thanks for tuning in. Midcap Radar is up next.